Do you think we can start, or we are still waiting for?
I guess we can start.
Yes. So I'll just quickly go through some rules for our session. And these rules are more for the remote participants. So please enter with your full name as you connect to Zoom. And if you want to ask a question, raise hand using the Zoom function. You'll be unmuted and you'll be able to talk then. And when speaking, switch on the video, please, and state your name and affiliation. And finally, do not share links on the Zoom meetings, not even with your colleagues.
Hello, Amadou, can you hear me?
Yeah. So now, okay, I think we can move forward, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Please welcome everybody to this session and on this session of the Dynamic Coalition on health. And we are addressing now the topic of augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse for urban and rural settings. My name is Jörn Erbgut from the University of Geneva, and I'm happy to hand over to Amali, who is basically behind this dynamic coalition and will be the remote moderator. Please, Amali, go ahead.
Thank you, Jon. So my name is Amali De Silva Mitchell. Sorry, my camera is off. It's not working. And it's where I'm located. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. So please excuse me, otherwise it would be on. So I thank you for joining us. This is the Internet Governance Forum, Dynamic Coalition on Data-Driven Health Technologies. And what our session is going to be very simple today. We are going to have 2 questions, and we are going to put each question out, and we would like absolutely everybody's contribution to that question. And without further ado, I'm actually going to pass it on to Dr. Joao Gomez to run this session. Thank you. Joao, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you can see me and hear me clearly. It's a pleasure to be here again with you after the World Summit on Information Society. I saw some of the faces that are in the session as well. And it's a pleasure to be back here with you. I'll state my affiliation as well. So I'm affiliated with both the private industry through Ada Health, which is a company that develops technology for patient triaging. And that's the main purpose of what we do. But also on academia with the University of Porto, where I'm also pursuing a PhD on health data sciences and concluded degrees on healthcare economics and medicine in the past as well. Exactly as you stated, Emily, I would like to precisely start with one of these 2 questions that we prepared for the session. And I will open up the floor. Maybe we can even start with Yao. I see that Yao is here with us remotely, and I'll ask you directly this question, and then we can hear from you and also hear from the room as well. If there are contributors in the room, we can only see the table. So I would also ask for that support to assess if there's anyone in the room that would be willing to comment on the question. So what would be then the opportunities? As we heard, the topic of this session is on virtual reality, augmented reality, and the usage in healthcare particularly. So the question would be, what are the opportunities and benefits for these technologies? So for both AR and VR, and also potentially the metaverse technologies. And how do they link to the Sustainable Development Goals of health and wellness, and how can they positively impact society? So yeah, maybe I'll pass it on to you to start answering these questions, and then we can go around the table.
Can you hear me, everybody? Sorry, I cannot put on my camera. I'm just heading to hospital now, but yeah, I'm fine now. Yeah, thank you for the floor, Joao. Regarding opportunities, benefit for the augmented reality metaverse, I will go first in the field of healthcare telemedicine. Here I'll focus on the African perspective. I would say that The augmented reality will provide training simulation and for medical professionals and improve also skills, but also reduce some of the errors regarding the practices in the healthcare industry. Yes, it is critical for Africans to get access to advanced medical treatment and also advanced medical training. With this can also be show some limitation as well, but AI can, so of course, enable remote consultation, allow patients in rural areas to receive expert medical advice without need of traveling for long distance to reach the next doctor. And here I can give an example. A platform of Reco in Kenya, who is currently, from what I have read so far, they are currently using virtual reality to facilitate remote patient consultation, particularly in those villages that have few access to doctors. And this, in the other hand, improve access to healthcare services in the region. In the educational spectrum, we can say that augmented reality and virtual reality can also improve interactive and immersive learning experience, and also making education more engaging and effective, especially in under-resourced areas as well. And virtual reality in this case can provide hand-on training for various traits of skills and address also skill gap in most of the cases, and boosting employment opportunities. And also it can be beneficial in the sense that they can build new job opportunities and in the industry, especially in Africa, which is currently a growing economy in general. So this technology can enable entrepreneurship opportunities, also enable current entrepreneurs to create innovative solutions and businesses, and then this enhance economical activities. On the environmental spectrum, I would say augmented virtual reality specifically can promote eco-friendly tourism. During our session on the World Summit of Society for Information, we mentioned the impact of the textile industry on environment in Africa, how people are throwing these unused clothes in streams and in public area where it's not really, it's really impacting negatively the environment. So virtual reality can propose alternative for tourism people, also clothing industry, and also educate the augmented reality can be used for education purpose and enhance conversation over environment and sustainable practices as well. And I also read the news last 2 weeks ago in Tanzania that the students in school that are creating using augmented reality app to help midlife in I think to help midlife in the safari. So concern here, can I tackle the concern also limitation and risk, or just answering the benefit and opportunity? Joe.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Also, with regards to your affiliation, we haven't stated so, but you can also add some words. But
Yeah, I can say.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just started. I am a member of the Dynamic Coalition on Data-Driven Health Technology, and also I'm an advocate youth, IGF youth, and supporting the IGF youth in Benin. And I'm from Benin. I'm currently based in Austria.
Yeah, thank you, Yao. We'll leave the comments on the concerns for the second stage of these session. I think that for now, it's perfectly fine if we discuss the upsides, the positives, the advantages, and we heard from you. Some of them are with regards to education, but also the remote delivery of healthcare. You even briefly mentioned in the end the element of tourism and green tourism. It could potentially relate to healthcare. In the end, tourism is also there's also the tourism for health with regards to the practices that are more common in particular regions or more accessible in particular regions and that make people travel for that particular purpose. So we did hear a lot of potential advantages, and we'll continue on this line. I'll continue going around the table here virtually before passing back to the room, Jorn. So Olivia, I don't know if you're with us at this stage, but I can see you're online.
Yes, I am indeed. Thank you very much. Olivier Crapin-Blanc speaking. I'm the chair of the Dynamic Coalition on Core Internet Values. I was actually going to first listen to what everyone has said and then maybe emit a few comments here and there on the topic.
Can activate your camera.
I can turn my camera on as well, but I'm not sure it will actually it will actually work very well, which is always the thing. But anyway, yeah, so that's me. So yeah, thank you for giving me the floor. I think what I'll do is to first take a few notes on what people are saying and then comment on it. The Dynamic Coalition on Core Internet Values has a different view, which is to do with the actual governance of these issues. And it's interesting how you are providing it's an entirely different space, although now everything is moving to digital. And obviously there is governance that is coming up with this digital, the digital term, widening the internet governance to everything that is digital. And definitely what's going on here with augmented reality is digital. So something will be done at some point, I guess, for it to be governed. Thank you.
I will even add some words on this element of digitalization of healthcare and even on training, because at the end of the day, it creates risk-free environments for practitioners and students to practice and also to upskill their capabilities that they are training for, and they're going to apply on real human beings in a process that is more controlled. So this is clearly one of the advantages of using these tools. Of course, that on the inside, we need infrastructure, but I think that we can talk a bit more on the disadvantages and the needs that are going to be created by these technologies. And I think that's also to keep this line of providing more thoughts and ideas. We'll move on to Uda. I also see that she's with us. You're online. I don't know if you can hear us.
Yes. Hello, good morning.
Perfect.
Just I want to share some slides if possible, please. Just I find that is deactivated. Could you please give me the floor?
It's activated.
Yeah, they're doing it at the moment, so it'll be.
Yeah, exactly.
We in the room can see the host's screen, so we see what they're doing. You should be able to now.
No secrets here.
That's good. Now I can share my slides. Thank you so much. Just a second. Could you see them, please? Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, just a moment, please. Okay, hello everyone. So let me thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. So my today's talk is about metaverse in healthcare. I will speak about the advantages and challenges. So let's start by defining what is the metaverse. Okay, I will make it visible. So it is a mix of virtual and augmented reality that creates a world that is parallel to our own, where the interaction is done through different avatars. So here we have to align metaverse with the context of healthcare. So we have a building of digital environment where different patient, doctors, and researchers can interact virtually and engage in different various healthcare-related activities, which is a very has a benefit for people in remote areas and with disabilities. So it's an opportunity to overcome geographic barriers. So the exploitation of metaverse technology is also enable advanced trainings and to conduct surgical simulation, and it is an opportunity to collaborate in virtual research laboratory, and it enables doctors to do remote surgical simulation without being inside. So it's an opportunity to do remote consultation too, and it's also an opportunity to enable accessibility for rural areas and for people with disabilities. So, what are the challenges? We have some privacy, respect of patient information. So, just a second. So sorry for this noise, please. So the challenges is related to privacy, respect of patient information. So here we have to state some regulation related to ethical consideration about the information of patient exploitation. Here also, as we talk about metaverse, we need advanced technology, accessible and with high connectivity of internet. This is costly, very costly, and it's different from country and continent to continent because, for example, in one continent we can find 5G, which is very good towards in terms of connectivity and the metaverse statement and for respect of privacy too. But we find it in an issue in some continent they are still on 2G or 3G or going to 4G. So here we have an issue with the progress of technology and accessibility of it, let's say. Also, we have another requirement. So towards the exploitation of metaverse, okay, if we have everything related to technology, accessibility, and high data rate of connectivity, we should be able to exploit the metaverse without harming ourselves, without exposing our information, and we should surf online and use a metaverse in safe ways. So here we speak about the responsible use of metaverse. We need some trainings in cybersecurity and in metaverse exploitation too. So here we need two things. So about skill sets in metaverse exploitation and skill sets about cybersecurity and privacy issue. Another important thing, we should have the consent of patients regard the access of virtual healthcare. We should have we should teach them and convince them about the importance of metaverse and having their consent about sharing and access to their profiles online. Okay, we speak also about an important thing. So now we have an important revolution of artificial intelligence. So the integration of artificial intelligence and metaverse for the healthcare industry could save many times for us in terms of data collection and analysis. Also, artificial intelligence is a good tool in terms of security issues and threats prediction. Also, it enables high quality care in terms of avatar building and online interaction. So artificial intelligence provides improvement of metaverse exploitation in terms of avatar creation and about huge data analysis and diagnostics of patients' information, especially that with age we need more information about patients to analyze them. So artificial intelligence is a good tool to follow the progress of the patient healthcare. So let's sum up. We say that artificial intelligence is here to improve the user experience in metaverse in terms of healthcare industry. That's it from my side. Thank you so much for your attention and for the time that you give it for me.
Thank you. Yeah, we saw quite an holistic view. We already entered into some of the challenges and difficulties, but also some of the solutions to these challenges. And you mentioned potentially the education aspect, which would be quite critical to address this element of literacy and the data difficulties and privacy. Yeah. So it was quite interesting to see that. Also, this aspect that is not always thought about, which is the inclusivity of the avatar creation itself.
Yeah.
that embodies all different characters, personas, and even beliefs, individual beliefs and cultures, which above all is more important. And it should be addressed under this context of AR and virtual reality as well. And I see that
Yes.
Amelie has the hand raised as well. Do you want to comment on this as a follow-up?
Yes, please, Yao. This is Mali. I just want to say that from the mental health perspective, I think this technology is seen as very beneficial. I can see that, it creates an immersive environment that patients can interact with. And it's apparently, I'm just reading, it's apparently very good. But also from the training perspective, I think it's very supportive in providing repeatable experiences for students, as well as giving them a diversity of experiences and in a standardized form, in a quality form. And I think, it supports sort of anxiety management that I think all students probably have at some point in time. So I think it's very good. I also think it's very good for public education in terms of public health. In terms of permitting people to experience what symptoms might be and what to look out for. For instance, in COVID, for instance, it'd be very interesting to have taught the public what to expect in terms of a visual approach to it. So that's my bit there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will even add that VR is already being used to treat some of the conditions, medical conditions such as phobias and PTSD. And there were even articles stating that it was even superior to the classical treatment for these types of conditions, which are very much dependent on behavioral therapies. So I think that there is also an element of scientific validation to be made in here, and it's currently being done. And on the insides of the or as a follow-up, even more as a comment to the remote consultations aspect, we know that over the last years we have had this sudden increase of remote consultations being done, which have not necessarily plummeted following the restrictions being raised. And I'm talking about obviously COVID. There were more opportunities for these remote assessments to be completed. People have gone on board, sometimes because there was not an alternative there, but now that there is, and that the services are open again, there is still a continuation of these remote consultations, obviously not to the numbers that we have seen in the past. And there are obviously some reasons to this that we can discuss in the concerns question, which would be the second one. But for now, also on the trying to listen to more positive elements, we have heard a lot already, but I will check with the room. I don't know, Jorn, if there's more people in the room that would be willing to comment on this question there. And if not, we can move on to the second question.
We have one speaker. Do we have a microphone?
No, we don't actually.
Can you just come here and?
Unfortunately, you have to step forward to the. That's why Jon is going to sit here.
So you can sit here. You will be seen and heard. Please state your name and affiliation.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Kostas Baliktis. I am affiliated with the Greek Regulatory Authority for Communications and with IEEE, but I do not necessarily represent their views. Let me just state a few facts that I'm sure you are aware of. The Commission in the Digital Educate Policy Program has targeted for very high capacity networks for everyone until 2030 and 5G coverage of all populated areas by 2030. These tasks or these targets are quite elusive. If you see the actual results, there we are quite low. That means that we have optical fiber technologies in the access network practically everywhere, and 5G standalone networks everywhere if we want to see advanced broadband services such as AR or VR, especially in rural areas. Mind you that about 9% of rural areas do not have any fixed network at all coverage. And AI that you mentioned previously necessitates that there are very high capacity networks everywhere. So the question for me is, given that connectivity is not going to be up to the task for very high capacity applications, already many parties fear that there's going to be a new digital divide, which will create a new social divide, which will even become more strong for applications that are vital, like the health sector, let alone business applications like real-time agriculture or other applications that necessitate AI or other such new technologies. And in order to have these technologies launched in these very high capacity networks, the networks themselves need to be very low latency and to support time critical applications, especially in the health sector. So given the fact that we're going to have these challenges ahead of us, at least until 2030, maybe longer than that, it seems to me that the rural areas, isolated areas, areas that have large population density periodically during the year, like very touristic places that have large population density for a certain period of time, and then they are isolated more or less. How do you see this? How do you expect this to affect AR, VR, and other such technologies and their applications in sectors such as the health sector, and how can we mitigate these challenges? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Could you just repeat your name so that I can follow through?
Yeah, Kostas Baliktis.
Kostas, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for the comments. And I think it's the perfect segue as well for the second question. I totally agree with your comments, and they depict perfectly what are the limitations, the risks, and the concerns, which would be what we would discuss now in the second stage. And as you stated, this opportunity on one end can also create more difficulties and more separation and more divide, as you stated, because these regions do not really have access to the infrastructure that they need. And we're talking about good connectivity, but also equipment. If equipment is not there, it's not possible for people to perform these remote consultations or even to engage in these remote treatments or remote therapies. So it's not just about the infrastructure per se in terms of this connectivity, but also the equipment. And Amalie, I see that you have raised your hand. You want to follow up on this question as well?
Yes, I do. And I am actually going to quote Jon, who is in the room. During the WSIS presentation, we had a discussion, and he did say that these technologies can be standalone. So there can be developments where you can have standalone technologies that support rural communities rather than having actual connectivity. I'm not sure if Jon wants or Olivier would like to expand on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to expand and also to show some slides. I don't want to repeat everything. My focus is on privacy and data protection. And of course, we have seen the use cases, and we see a lot of positive use cases. We see a lot of data being processed. So we have a really big increase of data being processed compared to classical hospitals. So we have a lot more data, which of course can be used for good, but of course, which creates new risks. And when you see the benefits, you see the health benefits for remote locations. You see the health benefits in terms of cost savings, which makes healthcare more affordable. You see health benefits in terms of affordable, better quality. Health benefits in terms of more precise surgical treatments. And even privacy could benefit in settings where otherwise only one doctor would be available. Imagine a small village where there is only one doctor, maybe some dozen kilometers away, and everybody goes to this doctor. The privacy you have in this context is limited. So it is also a benefit for privacy if you can consult remote doctors. And of course, you can integrate AI support, which of course also increases data processing. And with more data, there's a question, who will have access to the data? What will the data be used for? Could there be automatic decision-making? For example, governments is always trying to limit the expenditure on health. So if you have all the data available, you could make automatic decision-making who is going to get some kind of health treatment and who is not. And this could be, of course, given from the doctors to central authorities. And of course, you have the risk of faulty data. You have the risk of hacking. You have the risk of system failure, of power outages, of network failures, etc. And when we look at data processing in AI systems, we have the training data, the context data, the supervision, which is also required, for example, by the AI Act of the European Union, which also creates new data being collected. I don't want to dive too deep into this, but as you can see, the risk of data being processed is exploding by having much more data, and it's not that we should refrain from using these technologies, but we have to take care of this. And when you look at training data, you have a lot of possibilities to reduce the possible privacy impact. And of course, you need to have the proper legal basis, consent-based contractual agreements, compensation, maybe also public interest, legitimate, and to have extend research ethics on that. So basically, these are my thoughts. AR, VR is mostly AI powered. So we are talking about AI data governance here. And we need to distinguish there between training and contextual data, which are two completely separate fields and are often confused. We will have to cope with the lack of reliability of AI. AI will never achieve this kind of reliability that we know from conventional computing. If you have computations in Excel, Excel almost never makes an error. If you have AI doing calculations, you have, even if you optimize it in many ways, you will have error margins that will remain much bigger. And training data collection and privacy will also remain a challenge. So these are my privacy thoughts on that. Amalie, does this address your question?
And I just want to add that I think going into the future, going the next 10 years, we'll have to use a blend of technologies. And quite honestly, we will have to have, AR, VR devices in remote areas, and also use paper, and also use email. And I think that's what we're going to have. We're going to have a multi-pronged approach. We're going to use all the devices and applications and possibilities that we have. And then eventually, maybe 10 and 15 years time, it'll activity and so forth. So I think we have to be prepared to that, to have sort of a mixed bag. And that also means for people looking to invest, they must understand as well that we may be seeking money for devices and so forth, but it's going to be this mixed bag. So I think it's important to share that we don't have to go immediately to that very sophisticated end. We can build it up. And I know we started with ITU, International Telecommunications Organization, and they're collecting data on the public. They want to build standards of data collection and so forth. But I think all that has to understand that we are going to have these multiple types of technologies, including paper, for the next 10 to 15 years. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
I see Olivia.
If I, Olivier,
thank you. Yeah, just said so. Thank you, Olivier Capana-Blanc speaking. So, one thing that strikes me in listening to this discussion is that many years ago, when the internet was something very new, there were exactly the same sort of questions being asked at the time. A whole range of possibilities, a whole range of things that we were imagining could be done. And at the same time thinking, well, should this be regulated? Is this going to be regulated or not regulated? And of course, it all started completely unregulated. And the term here, which does concern me, it's just a concern with regards to the semantic of it, is say, well, this is the metaverse. And this is this whole mix of online and offline at the same time. We're dealing here with medical data. Is this safe? Is this something that needs to be regulated? Because you'll immediately, for many people, the moment you mention metaverse, there's going to be this, oh yeah, Facebook, social media, terrible stuff happening out there. Wow, is that what you want to do with our medical fields? And obviously it's completely different. It's different use of the word metaverse, and avatars are not fake identities that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with ways to actually teach people things and be able to perform better in their job. So then the question I have is, and I think this also could go also to Kostas as well, as having looked at legislation, should legislating or regulation be affected, bearing in mind it could bring a limitation of the abilities and of the innovations that are coming up, but at the same time, it could also promote the use of such technologies through standardization and through promotion of it in a formal manner that would actually appease those people that are concerned about the risks and the concerns that these new technologies might bring. And it's a question. I don't know.
I don't think it's unregulated. We have a lot of regulation. Any kind of health device is heavily regulated. AI is being regulated. But of course, we have to question: do we have the right regulation? Well, sometimes existing regulation is blocking innovation. Sometimes existing regulation is not addressing the real risks that exist with new technology. And sometimes existing regulation is just not providing legal certainty. So we know, reading existing regulation, that there might be an issue, but we don't really know how to interpret existing regulations regarding a new technology that the existing regulation was never written for. And this of course needs to be addressed, so that we address the real risks, and that we also foster the benefits. And it's difficult to address the real risk because we don't know them yet. You have to fall before knowing that falling is possible. And this, of course, some risk can be foreseen. Network failures, of course, we know this can happen, and this has a certain risk. But what are the social implications? What are the social implications of remote medicine? And what kind of interactions will be missing when you interact remotely? We know this from Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings are a perfect way to interact, but something is missing. And when you go to a doctor and you don't go to a doctor anymore, you're happy, you don't have to sit in the waiting room, etc. Everything is fine, you don't have to commute, but something will be missing as well. And maybe this is crucial, maybe this is not crucial at all. Maybe sitting in the waiting room with other patients who are ill, who might also have a contagious disease, maybe this is not really missing. But other things like other conversations, possibilities to talk about things that you might not want to talk about in a direct conversation, these might be missing. And we need to keep track of these issues as they arise. We don't know them yet, but we should do research. We should accompany these innovation with research to see where the real issues are and how to address them.
Would AI sandboxes be a term that it would be applicable in order to test ideas?
I repeat your question, and you are asking about AI sandboxes. AI sandboxes is a way that is foreseen by the AI Act. And the AI Act introduces a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of barriers, but also quite a couple of things to foster innovation, like AI sandboxes, like the possibility to have a limited beta tests environment with registered participants. So you have some possibilities, but does anybody have an idea whether this will work or not? I don't have a clue. It's written in the law, and this is a good step, I think. But whether it will work, I'm not sure.
May I just add on this line?
Maybe if you want to add more, you have to come here. Otherwise, people cannot.
And then Huda has also been waiting for a while.
Yeah, maybe in between. Huda, would you like to comment?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the question. Can I speak? Can I reply? Okay, I will be very short. Okay, thank you so much for the question. So I think we should promote the use of metaverse. Any new technology should be very welcoming, but with some restriction and regulation. So we need a collaboration between different stakeholders, academia, cybersecurity experts, so technical community, standardization, that we should collaborate together to define the responsible use of a metaverse, especially regarding healthcare, because we need to define which is the real avatar and the fake one, because here we deal with the health of human beings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Huda. Maybe.
Yeah, just some line of thought. You are more experts than I am, but I understand that in rural areas, you need to have at least one node of a high connectivity access network, be it the doctor or a health center, in order to service the entire isolated community. Therefore, you need to have at least 5G in isolated rural areas or mountainous or isolated areas, or you can have a fixed line connection, which is even more expensive and more challenging to build. So if you have an AI system that is already trained, then you can service them. But if you envisage sometime down the road to somehow perform 5, 15, 20 years from now an operation remotely using AI, then you need to have a network which is almost time critical, which responds immediately to the commands of the doctor performing the operation. Therefore, you do need to overcome the challenge of deploying very high capacity networks in rural areas. Now, coming to AI indeed is a strict regulation that safeguards the rights of the EU citizens. At the same time, the European Commission seems to me they have adopted an AI innovation package, which, among other things, envisages that they have access. I mean, you can have access as a startup to high performance computing power throughout Europe. You can have the AI sandboxes. You have access to European data spaces, one of which a very prominent one is in the health sector. So that all these tools that they can provide some solutions or try to mitigate the challenges on the demand and the supply side. Therefore, it seems to me that you can't have, you need to spare some innovative activities from the private sector, and you have to assist them in order to build this infrastructure and the services in order to service both the urban areas and the rural areas. Otherwise, you are going to see the re-emergence of a digital divide, which will become even more prominent as we go on. And I'm not sure we can wait for 5-10 years, because by then the problem might be quite big. Thank you.
Last winter, I was actually traveling in northern Sweden, north of the polar circle, and I was going to huts, and every hut had the possibility to do credit card payments because they were connected with Starlink. So we have a technology that is available and that can serve rural areas, and actually the bandwidth of Starlink is quite amazingly high. And if you have a rural community to provide this kind of healthcare services, it would be a first step to have a center within the rural community that is connected, where you can do those services before actually connecting everyone. So I think connectivity is important, but I wouldn't be so pessimistic about connectivity. We see developments that connectivity is actually quite increasing.
I read the reports of the European Commission. If you see the Digital Decade, the annual report that they published for 2023, they are actually where we are quite behind. We don't have the connectivity that will meet the challenges of a data-driven society, and they are worried because the competitors of Europe, like the China and the US, are advancing very quickly. If you see the companies who make the technologies, both in the connectivity sector, especially in the new technologies, fortunately or unfortunately, they are not European. And we regulate non-European companies. And obviously, we need to move much faster if we need to not leave anybody behind. I see that in some areas, at least in Greece, where I come from, during the winter, when the weather is not very friendly, it's not very easy to assist the people, the population that is in remote islands. And, just having video conferencing or perhaps, to see these people, it's not a substitute for having a doctor who can perform all kinds of operations to the isolated population. And if you have AI tools, the doctor has, on top of that, to know these technologies and be very aware of that. Therefore, technology is there, but you need to have the funds to deploy it everywhere. You need to have, as you correctly pointed out, people upskilled and reskilled in order to be able to use the technology efficiently. And you have to create tangible results, which is easier said than done.
Yeah. I think that if I could jump in here, Olivia speaking, I think that it's particularly important if you're looking at having remote interventions going on, where you need an absolute reliability of the link. Yeah. Because if the link, Starlink, great, but if it drops for 30 seconds, that might be the difference between life and death, and you just don't want to have that risk. So obviously, we're speaking about a different type of internet. Not only is it fast, but it's got to be absolutely rock solid.
Well, of course, I agree that it really depends on the kind of intervention you're doing. If you're doing diagnosis and the internet fails for 30 seconds, it might not be that problematic. If you perform a surgery operation, it will be dramatic. So you have to distinguish, and I also agree that Europe is not advancing as much as it should. And I know the situation from Germany, where connectivity is as bad as in developing countries. And some developing countries are much better than Germany. And we see there is a new digital divide developing. And now Europe is on the other side of the digital divide.
True.
That's true. I also see a comment here from Martin. I don't know if you can maybe unmute yourself and speak to voice it. Perfect.
Of course, I don't know which comment it is, but first of all, I agree with the need for privacy and data protection, but that's already covered by the GDPR. The issue around the metaverse is obviously identity management. Because a lot of these VR, AR solutions that we see from the private sector is not linked to unique identifiers that confirms the individual. That can lead to identity theft, but also multiple identities for the same individual. On the connectivity issue, what we're seeing where I'm sitting at the United Nations University and our unit on digital transformation of the public sector, is that there's some interesting metaverse solutions out there that both deals with high resolution, very VR, AR type solutions that requires the 5G or the fiber connectivity, but it allows for the user to go into a flat mode when they have less reliable solutions or less reliable connectivity. So Dubai courts actually did a very interesting pilot on this, targeting the legal profession, but also people that may be involved in court cases or think they might have a court case and want to keep anonymity. So they have this AI augmented reality scenario where you basically go and connect through your connection, and depending on that connection, you can go into a full sort of avatar mode, or you can just keep it very flat. In worst case scenarios, they actually link you out to the call center in case that there's a need for that. So, I mean, this is the type of thinking that is really interesting in terms of applying technology in different contexts. And even in a very well-connected city-state like Dubai, they are thinking of alternatives, because sometimes your target audience is in the middle of nowhere, or they're traveling and they don't have the same data package that they usually have. So there are models out there. Also related to COVID, some of the experiences we saw that was really interesting, and some countries are now exploring through their upcoming telco license auctions, is to basically ensure that certain government IP addresses, such as those providing online education or healthcare services, will be exempted and provided as essentially free when people have a data package. What we saw, particularly in the Latin American, Caribbean, and African context, was that although people had access to devices and data, their data packages was consumed within a week of their kids doing online learning. And then the kids were basically unable to learn for the remaining 3 weeks of the month because of the cost of data. So there's some really interesting ideas around getting the private sector to compete not only on the rollout of infrastructure, the reliability of infrastructure in rural and remote areas, but also price point and ensuring that things are sort of included as a competitive advantage in those bids for certain government IP addresses. This is similar to what we already see in low-income countries where things like Facebook or TikTok is provided as free in your data package. So that consumption of Facebook or TikTok does not get deducted from your data package. It's considered a competitive parameter. So here again, the public sector and the telco regulators in particular have a potential role in ensuring the connectivity, the reliability, and the affordability of these type of solutions. Anyway, that's just a little bit from our experience and what we see happening in this area. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the comments. Yeah, Amado, I see you raise your hands. Be mindful of the time, because we only have 4 minutes left, and then I'll pass it back. I'll let Jorn take up the word right after your intervention. Thank you, Martin.
Sorry, thanks a lot for the opportunity. Well, I only want to enhance a little bit about the remarks from Martin in terms of certainly the accessibility to this technology is still, or it remains still a stopper. It remains still as a stopper in Latin America. But no matter that, I think there are very positive signals in terms of the intentions of the different governments in the region who are really willing to deploy this technology for the sake of better healthcare options for the patients, and also trying to reach the universal coverage, which at the end of the day is very important. But it's not only having access to the first point of contact, but also to specific techniques. Like, for example, we have already seen those kind of applications for delivery assistance in rural areas, or we have also seen some examples of the ambulance environment, and as well as how to manage patients in despair during environmental issues in which they really do not have the possibility to have access to the healthcare system as such. Then I encourage everybody to.
We have to come to an end. Maybe you can conclude, Amaru.
Yes, thank you very much. You know, just to say, we really have to keep on working in this direction in order for us to make it successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Amali, do you have a last word?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for this interesting discussion, and please join our coalition for further discussions. Thank you, Joe and Jan.
You still have 2 minutes.
Okay, so we can conclude now, so João, do you have a last word?
My last word will be a thankful word for everyone that contributed. I see also a lot of new faces in here. Yeah, the discussions were very interesting. There were also some solutions to the problems that were raised. I think that it's well established that the advantages are many, but the discussion should now be on the limitations and how to solve the limitations. And I guess that's also what we have done in this second half of the discussion. So I would like to thank you all for the contributions. I see that some of you also shared relevant comments or documentation in the chats via written form. This will also be documented in the report of the session. And as Amalie stated, the discussions will continue. This group is a group that has been established for quite a while, this dynamic coalition on data-driven health technologies. There are new joiners, and there's always the possibility of welcoming new people. So you're all invited to join in case you would want to do so. So once again, Jorn, thank you so much for moderating from the floor as well.
Yeah. So thank you all. Thank you, Olivier, who was co-moderating here with me on site. And I saw the last intervention calling for 0 rating for health interventions is an interesting one. We have been against 0 rating for quite a while. And maybe we have to rethink this regarding essential services. And I wish you all a good continuation of EuroDIG that will continue until Wednesday. And happy to meet you again, meet you in person again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.